Hey, runners only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is runners only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. This is runners only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is runners only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. Hey, runners only with Dom Harvey.
Runners Only with Dom Harvey and Josh Koman. G'day, mate.
How you going, Dom?
Going fantastic. It's so good to have you here in my motel room in Christchurch.
Nice setting, though. Nice location to Hagley Park, mate, but it's an absolute privilege to be here today and have a chat.
Is that so?
Yeah, it really
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
you were
some
saying
wonderful guests on your podcast.
Yeah.
Barry McGee, Arch Jelly, listen to them. Fantastic humans.
Yeah, the old dogs.
Yeah, it's nice to bring out these stories too and hear what they've got to say.
Yeah, and it's great to have you here because you've got a hell of a story.
It's my responsibility to be able to share my story now, so hopefully other people who do go through hard times can have some perseverance or some encouragement or some inspiration from myself to go forward with what they have. Yeah.
First things first, mentally and physically, how are you now? How are you today?
Oh, I mean, if you compare me to the runner that I was, I'm talking about maybe 50%, but from where I was, being in a hospital bed in a coma, I'm fantastic, mate.
Yeah,
I'm
great.
awesome.
Great.
I can walk, I can talk, I can breathe, do a bit of running, do a bit of sport. Some things, I never thought I'd be able to do, and here I am. So I'm very grateful.
Oh, that's good. Well, let's go all the way back. So first of all, you're like an 800-metre runner, the fastest in New Zealand.
Yes, and
on the cusp of like Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I had a fantastic year in 2011. I only had one race, but I had a great build-up. I had 2 New Zealand silver medal 800-metre races, and I finished second in both of those races. And finally, in 2011, I had a great off-season. It was fantastic. I got some Ks on the leg, and 2011 was my year. It was the year that I was going to win this gold medal at a national level, and then that was going to be the pedestal going forward. Who knows what would have happened, but unfortunately I didn't get to compete in that 2011 national champs, and I had the fastest time, 800-metre time, until I got diagnosed. So,
yeah, what was the time? What sort of times were you
I was
doing?
at 1:51. I mean, it's fast. It is fast in the essence of someone from the outside, but when you're in that competitive realm, it's not that fast.
Man, no, it is. It is by anyone's standards. That's bloody quick. So what would you do a kilometre in? Okay. You keep going for another 200 metres?
Yeah.
Early twos?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Mid 220s.
Oh, wow, that's insane.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Okay, so there's so much ground to cover with you and so much to unpack. First of all, you've got a sipper bottle. You're sipping on that. What's the reason behind that?
I don't really produce saliva. I've had a lot of radiation, and I had a transplant. I got this graft-versus-host disease, and it's attacked the endothelial cells in my body, like the skin, the fascia, the ligaments, and inside my arteries as well. So I struggle to produce saliva.
Yeah. Okay, so you're a coaster. You're from
Greymouth. Born and bred.
What's it like there?
Magic place.
Is it?
Yeah, magic, mate. We've got some amazing people on the coast. Good, hearty souls, soul to the earth. A fantastic community, and going through what I went through, I had fantastic support around there. Yeah.
Tough bastards, eh? Is that where the grit and determination to be an 800-metre runner came from, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I ran with a guy called Eddie Gray on a Sunday. He was 65 when I first met him, and he was hard. He was a former New Zealand cross-country champ and a 10K champ, and he got third at the Worlds in 1969 at the World Cross Country. Yeah. And he was hard as nails, mate. He would go out running in his pants on a 30-degree day, running over the Paparoa Hills, and I really admired him. He just had this pure tenacity about him, and I adopted that. That was my method of running. No matter how hard it got, I'd still continue on, and Eddie really signified that.
Yeah. And what was life like growing up? What were your parents like?
Parents were great. I had a great mum. My dad, we didn't have a great relationship. He was hard at work, but I didn't really understand my dad. He had a very, very tough childhood, and through my diagnosis, we actually got to know each other a lot better. But I had a fantastic childhood all in all. My mum was a really loving, caring mum. Yeah, but Dad was great. He was always working. He worked at the coal mine. He was trying to provide us kids something that he didn't have, and I really respect that now.
Was he just not a great communicator? What do you mean? Or was he just hard, strict?
He was tough, but he was fair. He was always working, and he was tired and exhausted. Yeah. And he had strict disciplinary actions with me being the oldest, but that was fine. But his background is 10 times tougher than what I had.
In what way?
in what way that my grandfather come from post-war Holland.
Okay.
So he set up a farm in Wataroa, and my granddad's wife passed away when Dad was 2, and he got sent to an orphanage, got physically abused and things like that.
All right.
Then came back to a dysfunctional household, and they lived in pure poverty back then as well. So he had it tough. He didn't have the parenting skills to bring me up, but Mum, she was salt of the earth, lovely lady. But my dad's an amazing man. From what he knew and what he had, he created a fantastic environment for me to be able to thrive.
Yeah, do you think it's just from that generation where, I don't know, where it's, you just didn't show any sort of vulnerability or...
Yeah, absolutely. I never saw my dad cry until I was diagnosed.
So
that's when we got to know one another. Yeah. And I was always seeking for my dad's approval, but he was never there. And I got a lot of other role models within my community.
Yeah.
Such as a man called Glenn Gibb. He was a former international Kiwi rugby player. He lived next door. He'd always take me running or doing physical activities, mountain biking and things like that.
Yeah.
I love my dad dearly. I'm not discrediting my dad whatsoever. He's a great man, and we're great mates now. We really are.
That's good. Are your parents still together?
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Geez, I can't wait to talk about your mum. We'll get into that later because I've heard you on some other podcasts talk about her, and it seems like just a wonderful relationship.
Oh, mate, yeah. She's my light.
Did you always have that close connection with her, or is that something that strengthened over the years with the illness?
No, I've always had that close connection.
Yeah.
My sister teased me a lot that I'm the mummy's boy, the favourite. So, being the oldest, I mean, I think you have that closer connection to your parents as well because you've got that time by yourself.
Yeah. But you've been around longer than the others.
Yeah, so I've always gravitated to mum, and I absolutely love her to death. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're running, you're in the form of your life.
Yeah.
You had a job as well, though, right?
Yeah, I was a qualified line mechanic, so I left school when I was 16, 17, become a line mechanic, and it was a hard physical job. So I worked physically hard and I trained hard. That's all I knew. Work hard, train hard. So that was my kind of philosophy back then. And it was great for me to get to where I got to, especially coming from Greymouth and training by myself, the likes of Eddie Gray and Ruth Croft. But a lot of that was solo training. It gave me that perseverance to kind of be accountable for myself.
Yes.
But it also hindered me in the way that I pushed myself far too far, where I probably was a correlating factor to how I got sick.
Really? Do you think so? Because you just trained so hard?
Trained so hard, but I didn't eat well. But for me, I worked 10 to 12 hours a day, sometimes 6 days a week. After that, the boys would drop me off. I'd run 20K home. You know, I had a good bit of time in the day. I'd go off and get a load of firewood, cut it up, back in. You know, it was ridiculous. Young, what's the saying? Young, dumb, and full of count.
Yeah.
That was me. Yeah, I thought I could do anything. And then once I started drinking, I'd go crazy because I couldn't really handle my drink.
Yeah, right.
And I'd just go crazy. You know, I got arrested twice for indecent exposure.
Did you?
I did.
Whereabouts? What were the circumstances?
In Greymouth. That was just me. I never got angry or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
just like flopping your cock out.
Oh, no. I took my clothes off one day and I said to the police, give them the bird, and I said, you can't catch me. You can't catch me. But the thing was, they did. Because they knew who I was.
Right.
So
It's a small town.
It's a small town. I went back to the pub, was with my mates, told them the story, they're cracking up. My mate saw me. And then the bouncer come up, put his hand on my shoulder, goes, oh, someone wants to see you outside. Cuffs on the back, away you go. Yeah.
So that's crazy.
It was a bit of a loose cannon, especially when I drank.
Yep.
And I worked hard, but I just couldn't handle it.
Is it just because you were that physically fit, all it took was a couple of beers and
it didn't
knocked
take
you on
much.
your ass?
Didn't take much, yeah.
Okay, so when I'm quite familiar with your story, and it sounds like you were very, very sick before you even got help. And it sort of reminded me when I heard your story of like Lance Armstrong in a way when he got testicular cancer. Like he was so fit and so used to being in pain that his nut was getting gigantic, and he just didn't even do anything about it. He just sort of persevered through.
Yeah.
Parallels to you?
Parallels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I mean, it took me probably about a month before. I had to collapse at the sink before I got taken to hospital to the intensive care unit.
What were the warning signs though?
Oh, there was heaps, mate. So we're sitting outside Hagley Park. I tore my ligaments there and chipped a bone, and the body wouldn't heal. It just wouldn't heal. That was unusual for me. I'd normally bounce back from an ankle sprain quite easily. And then that's before the New Zealand champs. Then I moved home. I decided I've got to get away, travel. but I got sicker and sicker. I entered in a bike race, Round Brunner. It's a 130k race.
Yep.
And I collapsed halfway. I was up with the leaders and I collapsed. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
What do you mean you collapsed?
I just fell off my bike.
Yeah, really?
I just got so dizzy and I fell off. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, what's going on? Maybe I'm just low on sugar. So I pushed my bike for half an hour to the Lake Brunner store. I walked in, staggered in. I need some chocolate. I need a Coke. I sat there for another 10 minutes going, finish the fucking race, man. Just finish the race. Because that was my mindset. Just get the job done.
Mentality,
Just get the job done.
Yeah.
So I picked off little places where I biked to, and I was struggling. And then finally, the last person to overtake me was a guy who I knew, and he had cancer. And about maybe 2K away from the finish line, I said, even a fucking cancer patient can overtake you. Finished the line, collapsed. I said, I'm never riding a bloody bike again. And I slept for about maybe a week. And
really, just fatigued?
Just fatigued. I was done. And I just had low hemoglobin, just low red blood cells.
Why did it take so long for you to seek help? You must have known. How old were you at the time?
I was 23.
Did you have like a gut instinct that something was wrong?
I think
you were just ignoring it, or what?
No, I put it down to the fact that I couldn't compete at the New Zealand Champs that year, and that was my year to show everyone what I was capable of. And I was in denial. I didn't want to be sick. I knew I was sick, but I didn't want to be sick, and that's the big thing. I wouldn't reach out for help because I didn't know how to.
Yeah.
Because I was my own man. I knew how to control my own environment. I could do it all by myself. But I was about to learn I couldn't, and I was soon going to learn I had to reach out for help. So it took me to the point of death to basically collapse at the sink. My brother picked me up. Mum took me to hospital, and then the next day I got diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia.
Right. How did you look at that stage? Like, had the weight been dropping off you? Did you look ill?
I looked ill.
Yeah.
People saw I looked a bit different, but no one really said anything too much. But it just comes back to being young, Dom. I just kept pushing. I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want to be sick. Yeah. I had a trip planned overseas, and I wanted to go over to Southeast Asia, experience a bit, and come back and give the running a go again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the plan. I just wanted to get overseas and just reset myself.
Yeah.
Because not competing at the New Zealand Champs that year just devastated me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And also, listen, no judgment from me. I had a massive tumour growing in my gut for like 10 years. And I ignored all the warning signs as well. Yeah. I ended up collapsing during the Auckland Marathon. So, no, my health journeys, but that doesn't have anything on yours. But same sort of thing. Just dumb, not listening to your body.
Yeah. Why didn't you listen? What did you put
I don't know. I thought I don't know. I thought I was just getting older, and I don't know. I started running again, and I felt ill when I'd run, and I thought, it must just be because I'm old. And I was like 30 at the time. Okay. It was just dumb.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in hospital. What do they say when you go in there? How do they break the news to you?
Oh, it was it's probably not the most professional way that day. It was a day like this. It was dark and gloomy, clouds out. And I woke up in the morning feeling a bit better. I had a blood transfusion and I was on an IV. My mum and uncle walk in with this concerned look on their face. And then the doctor come in and he just said, "You've got cancer." And my mum just burst out crying. And I was just so confused. And then there was this old guy in the bed across from me. And he said, "My brother-in-law died from cancer," telling. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So the doctor pulled the curtain. It should have been done a lot more professionally in an office, somewhere private. And then my mum was crying. My uncle threw his arms up in the air, said, "No, no, no." And I was like, what the heck's going on? Why am I causing so much pain in my family? Yeah, and that was just... And then I couldn't fly overseas. Had my first series of blood transfusions in Greymouth Hospital. Then I got sent over to Christchurch to the South Island bone marrow unit, where I was about to understand my diagnosis, understand my cancer, and understand the treatment protocol. Yeah.
When you think back now about how you were told and stuff, does it make you angry or?
No, I'm not angry about that. I was just so caught up in being diagnosed with cancer and not being able to fulfill my dream of representing New Zealand.
Yeah.
It'd been completely taken away, and I became so angry. How could I get cancer? I was one of the fittest, fastest in New Zealand, and then it was like, how the heck did I get this? And I got so angry, real angry.
Really? Yeah. Angry at what? Just your circumstances?
Just life, eh? Just you put all this hard work into something. You work 10 to 12 hours a day. You save your money. You go away to races. You're training. you have this goal set in mind, and my vision was so narrow because I only had that gold medal in sight, and I wasn't really appreciating what was around me, the ability to be able to run.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that. I just thought my life was completely taken away because that's all I knew, work and running. That's all I knew.
And at that time, did they say it was a terminal, or did they? What was the chance of survival that was given to you?
So I went to the Christchurch bone marrow unit, and it took a few days to understand my prognosis and where I was. So it started off as a good prognosis, and then by the end of the week, I got given 10 to 30% odds of my cancer. So I got put in the poor prognosis bracket. It was never terminal.
Yeah. 10 to 30% is not great, though.
Not great, but I thought, I'll trust the doctors. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I've got no idea. So I said, I'll just sit here and take what they've got. It's a bit of chemo. Maybe it's just like an ice pack on my ankle. It'll heal. That's my mentality, but I didn't understand what chemotherapy was going to do to me.
Yeah, what does it do to you?
Oh, it stripped me apart. First round of chemo, I was about to understand what real pain was. First round, my stomach lining got stripped away and it just shrunk to the size of a walnut, and I was in hysteric pain that first week. And the nurse she was an older nurse, she was about to retire, and she was coming in with big boluses of morphine, injecting me into the stomach. And I just started swearing, I don't want your fucking morphine. Just, it was not me. I don't swear. It was just not me. And I'm having all these things coming out. And I actually wrote her an apology letter, and she actually came up to me the next day and she goes, don't worry, love, I've had way worse than that. Holy heck, some stuff goes on in here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's probably worth highlighting at this point. So you're an 800-metre runner, so you're used to putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So I'm guessing you've got quite a high pain tolerance. So when you say it's fucking painful, it's fucking painful.
It was terrible. Yeah, I hadn't physically experienced that bad pain. Yeah, I love that good pain. Going out, getting a load of firewood, lifting it on, sweat running down my face. That feeling of, it's like a meditative freedom, running, pushing myself. I loved it because I knew it would end some stage. I didn't know when this pain would end. I had no idea.
So was it just continuous?
Yeah, it just lingered. So I knew that was my first round of chemo, and then I'd have to have 5 more rounds.
That's just relentless.
And then I had the leukemic cells in my central nervous system, so I had to have these lumbar punches, intrathecal chemo into my central nervous system.
What's that, like lumbar punch? That's like a big needle in your back?
Yeah, so it's a big needle into my spinal cord, and they injected in there to mop up the leukemic cells within my central nervous system. And then I also had to have these bone marrow aspirins once a month to understand what the cancer was doing, because the cancer was derived from my hemopoietic stem cells, these stem cells that live in our bone marrow that basically create our immune system.
Yeah.
So they had to suck out a bit of bone in my hip through this big needle, and it was just painful. I was on the nitrous oxide gas.
Oh, the NOS. Yeah, how good.
Loved it, mate. Loved it. And I was just doing it to pass out. I'd just be sucking hard on it and like just zap this needle in. But I had this really bad experience with it. It didn't work, and the doctor just mucked it up. It took him 4 goes to get it, to suck this bit of bone out. So it was just this continuous cascading of physical demeaning pain.
For how long does that last for?
So the treatment protocol for that first 8 months was a month in isolation, locked in isolation. I'd have a week to 10 days of chemo, depending on what the dose was.
When you say in isolation, what does that mean exactly?
So basically a little room, maybe quarter the size of this, with a little kitchenette.
Okay.
And there's a double ventricle door, air pressure door, so only the nurses and family were allowed in, and some friends now and then. So it's a very small room with a bed, your drip, your line, and a little kitchenette where you could cook some toast or get a bottle of water.
And it's literally isolation,
Literally
no visitors.
isolation.
Yeah.
Visitors were allowed in. Yeah, we had visitors, but you're locked in a room by yourself. But I had a beautiful view of the park, Hagley Park next door, which kept me sane.
Right. Yeah, because I'm guessing for a fit, active dude in his 20s, that must have just been like mentally like torturous.
It was, and that was the hardest part about it. And when I talk about real pain, that was the compounding pain with that physical pain, and then I had that mental pain. My whole life got taken away, and I basically was in despair. I disconnected myself from everyone because I thought my diagnosis was killing everyone around me because everyone was so sad, and I thought I've done something bad to everybody else.
Why did you think that?
Everyone was so sad, Dom. I thought,
yeah, but it's not. It's like, you can't hold any like guilt or shame about that. Like,
no, at the time I did though, because I was a man. I was supposed to be helping other people, and that's what I thought, because I always helped out other people. That's who I was, and I just didn't like seeing my mum and such distraught seeing me, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I looked at myself. Once you see your physical change in the mirror, and, and you saw yourself from who you used to be.
Yeah.
You know, you're fit, strong, and healthy, and that's what you loved. Working outside all the time, and you're locked in an isolation room with your own thoughts. And I didn't know how to control it. I just didn't know how to control it. I really didn't. I didn't even know how to talk to people. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't even know the words to say, hey, can you help me? So what did I do? I thought, jeepers, when I was out... Sorry, mate. I thought, I can't control these thoughts. I can't control this cancer. The only way I can end this is taking my life. So I really thought about it. And I was up on this balcony, and... Sorry, I'll get through this.
That's all right. Take your time.
And I just couldn't contain it, Dom. And I put a leg over and I thought, no, this would be a good way to go, because I couldn't control anything. Maybe I could control my situation by making a choice. And in that moment, as I was thinking about it, this bit of wind hit the right-hand side of my face, and I still feel it vividly. And I turned around and I saw my mother's cup of tea. And I saw her cup of tea. It just hit me in the heart, you know. It hit me there. And I said to myself, I can't put the pain I'm feeling inside my mum. I just can't do that. It would be worse. It would be worse for her than for me, what I'm going through right now. So I stood away. And I said, I've got to get some help, mate.
Yeah, desperately.
I had to get some help. And this was using my strength, mate. This was me using my strength now. So luckily in New Zealand we have amazing foundations, and there was a canteen. Her name was Sarah, and I said, listen, I need to get some real help. Can you get me a psychologist? And she got a psychologist on board, and I managed to be able to have a bit of an outlet and someone to talk to.
Were you offered a therapist earlier than that?
Like getting diagnosed, I had to collapse at the sink before I could get treatment.
Yeah.
I was on the edge. I had my foot, you know, before I could
how high?
It was 4 stories up. I was on the 4th story.
Okay,
so
right. Yeah, would have done
15 metres maybe.
Jeez, what an awful way to go.
Yeah, it's tough to think about now, and I think, holy heck, what were you thinking?
Was it just to? Was it you? I mean, you didn't want to die. Did you just want to escape the pain? Is that what it was?
I just wanted to escape the pain in my mind because I didn't know how to control it. I wanted to escape the physical pain, and I didn't think there was a life ahead of me. I couldn't see it. I was so blind because I was focused on this pain that I was in right now. I was just blind. I was like in this closed closet, and I hated being in isolation. I hated being sick. I hated having cancer. And I perceived myself as this weak, loser, pathetic man that had no control of his life. I really did. And it was silly. It was just
really,
silly.
were you like embarrassed?
I was.
Yeah, that is so fucked up. Mm-hmm. And with the benefit of hindsight now, from where you are now, you can see that, can't you?
Yeah. It's just this silly mindset that I had. It was ridiculous because I thought I was a man. I could control everything. But it wasn't until I got real help where I managed to talk to someone and understand that this was okay, that these thoughts are normal, that I finally got out of that dark hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also, from that, it was a real pivotal point. I got help, and he basically told me, it's not you, Josh Komen, that wants to die. It's just the pain in the situation, you know. And he assured me this will soon pass. So I went back into the hospital, and I got given this book. It was called Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, I know that. Viktor Frankl, yeah. Concentration camp book.
Mate.
Incredible.
My favourite book in the world.
Yeah.
And I read a passage in there. And Viktor Frankl went through a whole heap. You know, suffered horrendously.
Yeah.
You know, he made a choice to stay with his family in Austria, and he got captured by the Nazis and put in Auschwitz. And he said in there, the last of the human freedoms, you know, when everything gets taken away, the last of the human freedoms is to make a choice, to choose one's own way.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I made a choice. I made a choice to myself, and I made a choice to God. And I said, no matter how hard life gets, I will not choose to do what I decided, what I thought I would do by taking my life. No matter how hard I would put the pain inside myself, I would talk to people, and I would carry on. And I made that choice.
Well, from your athletics as well. I mean, you've got that sort of warrior fighter mentality, don't you?
Yeah, but I had to get that from that other story because Viktor Frankl went through a horrendous amount, and I thought if he could get through what he went through, then maybe I could get through what I'm going through, which was nothing compared to Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you always religious, or did you find a religion or God or whatever you want to call it through this journey?
It's an interesting question. I mean, my dad was religious, my mum, and I didn't like church. I was in denial all about it. But something really grabbed me when I was in hospital, especially being able to take my life. In the hospital, you get a Bible in there, and I actually opened it after I started reading the book. I started reading, and I opened it to a passage, and it was in Joshua. I just opened to Joshua because my name resonated with that. First thing I read, and I read in the first verse, Joshua 1, verse 9, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord God is with you." And that just sung to me. It just really resonated with me. And then from then on, I had a belief in God. So that's where I really found it in that moment.
I suppose when you're going through what you were going through, you need that belief in God. You need to have that feeling that there's something on the other side.
Yeah, something on this other side, but someone keeping you accountable too, because you read it and basically, how Jesus carried the cross and carried his burdens and sufferings. It was like, well, I need to go through what I'm going through because this is life. And being in that hospital environment, Dom, there were young kids, there were adults, and I got to see everyone else's pain. Everyone was going through something. It just wasn't me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought maybe I could get through this, and then I can encourage other people to get through their own hard times.
Right. So how long all up does it take you to get through this leukemia?
So that bout was 8 months.
Yeah.
8 months in hospital, in and out. And after that suicide thing, I really got myself right. I started writing a lot of diary. Visualization was big. I did that when I was running, visualizing myself running and being happy again. I did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, and I started talking to a lot of people that I trusted. I didn't talk to everyone, but writing my thoughts down was fantastic. I allowed myself to cry when I needed to cry. That's something the psychologist gave me, so I locked myself in the toilet, cried to myself, and just opened myself up a bit more to people who I trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a book out called "The Wind at My Back." Is that made up from your diary entries or your journaling at the time, or was this just a book that you wrote specifically?
So it was made up a bit about my diary because it helped me recollect the thoughts that I had back then. But it wasn't until I was getting treatment in Melbourne that I really started writing this book because that was another time where I got in deep depression as well. Yeah. So I started writing that thinking maybe my life's going to end not by me taking it but by the disease that I had. And maybe it's just a memoir for my family or my nieces and nephews.
Yeah, it's a hell of a story.
Yeah.
Hell of a story. Okay, so you survived the first bout. Is that where you got it when you go to Nepal?
So I get out of hospital and I recover remarkably well.
Right.
Yeah. So I was quite confused then. I really couldn't associate myself with a lot of my friends in Greymouth, so I kind of disassociated myself and I just went surfing, mate. I was out in the surf.
What do you mean? Had just something changed in you or in them?
I was just searching for the meaning of life and what's gone on, Beforehand, I was out partying, taking my clothes off, running around, doing all that stuff, and I thought there's more to life than just doing that. I experienced so much in that 8 months, and I was understanding who I was and what was going on, and what's this pain and suffering going on in life, and also too, I just loved being by myself. I really did. I enjoyed it. It was different this time. It was just me, and I was praying, I was thinking, and I was out in the surf, and I just loved being out in nature, just connecting myself back out in nature. Yeah. So I was out in the surf, and then a good friend, Ben Wallace, he rang me up and he said, "Hey, bro, do you want to go to Nepal, to Kathmandu?" And I said, "No, mate, fuck off. You're joking." I just been.
Were you well enough to travel at that point?
No.
Probably
not. But I knew life was short, Dom.
Yeah.
And it was like you knew that you needed to take opportunities because something can be taken away from you so quickly. So I rang him back and I said, "Yeah, mate, let's do it." I was out in the surf one day and I just slapped my hands down and I said, "Yeah, mate, you just got to do it." So I spoke to my doctor. He said, "Yep, good as gold, go do it." And I got on the plane, arrived at Kathmandu, and it was just overwhelming. It was my first overseas experience too. So,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yeah, I've been to Australia.
Right.
Yeah, been to
doesn't
Australia.
really count. Yeah.
Doesn't really count. Aussie's similar to New Zealand.
Yeah.
But going over there, I mean, you land, you get out there, and there's just all these people tuk-tuk and the smells and the senses and seeing everyone around. But this trip really changed my life in a huge way. It gave me a real good perspective of how good I did have it in my hospital room.
It's a very poor place, isn't it?
Very, very poor. I think it's in the top 5 poor places in the world. But I got on my tuk-tuk and he's taking me to the backpackers where we're staying. I was driving along and just in awe of where I was. And I saw these kids, bare feet, singlet, a couple of them had no tops, and they were playing in this rubbish. And they got up and they waving at me with these smiles, Dom. And I thought, holy heck, how good did I have it to suffer in such good conditions? You know, I had my mum, I had a bed, I had the treatment I needed, and I had good food.
Yeah.
You know, I had everything I needed to suffer in such good conditions that these kids had nothing. And I thought, holy moly.
It's some perspective, eh?
It really was. So it really fulfilled me then that I didn't have it so bad. Really didn't have it that bad. And I thought, no, just go out and enjoy what you do have. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, what you did there is something I'd love to do one day. You walked to base camp.
Yeah, with my good mate. It was tough.
How long does that take?
It took us 13 days return, I think. 13 days.
Right.
I can't recall the exact number off the top of my head, but yeah, it was about 13 days return.
Is it tough for everyone, or is it just tough for you because you were recovering?
No, it's tough for everyone. Yeah. I think there's about 40% of people who decide to go there, kind of get there. I met a lot of people who got flown out. I did get high altitude sickness. Spent 2 nights at Tingbullshay. Spent 2 nights there, recovered. Got to Everest Base Camp, then climbed up to this mountain called Mount Kalapatar. It's just under 20,000 foot, and got to watch the sunrise over Mount Everest, mate. And I call these small perfect moments. You know, I just capture them and put them into my heart and hold them there tight, because no one could take that away from me. And I knew how special that moment was. You know, I set myself out on a goal and I achieved it with a good friend, and I saw the sunrise come over, and it's like, holy heck, last year you were in hospital wanting to, you know, what we spoke about, and here you are, Mount Everest, you know, where Sir Ed was.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must feel extra special being there as a New Zealander.
Yeah, it was really special. You know, we went to the Edmund Hillary School, we got some colouring books and gave some to the kids and met the kids, and it was just really, really wonderful experience. Yeah, life-changing.
So then you come back home. Is that when you start skydiving?
Yeah, so...
What were you up to? You wanted to become like a skydiving instructor?
Yeah, well, they were the two things that I wanted to do in my life,
right.
Even when I was running, go to Mount Everest Base Camp and become a skydiver. And I knew there was a high chance of my cancer coming back. I knew that.
Yeah, really? What did they say?
Because I was in a poor prognosis.
Yeah.
They thought they'd try this treatment, just the chemotherapy, and if it did come back, then I'd have to have an allogenic stem cell transplant. So that was a backup option. So I thought, we'll have the chemo first and see what happens. So I come back from Nepal and I enrolled outside of Methven, the New Zealand Diploma in Commercial Skydiving. It was just absolute magic, mate.
How many jumps did you do?
I ended up doing about 200.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's nothing. You know, my instructor had done 20,000 jumps. Yeah.
So you're at the point where you were like in charge of your own pull cord and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was responsible. Yep, and I was filming people, tandem people. I was filming them. Special experience. The most freest I've ever felt in my life. Yeah, it was wonderful. I met some amazing people too, and some good friends there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No close calls or anything?
No, apart from my very last jump. My very last jump, I jumped with a good friend Ivan, and we went up to 18,000 feet, and I got hypoxic, and I started seeing 6 of them as I jumped out of the plane. I was like,
what's hypoxic?
Hypoxic when I've got low oxygen levels, because I've got a low saturation of hemoglobin, so the oxygen can't bind to the hemoglobin. So I got real dizzy, and I seen 6 of them. Like, whoa! Started spinning around, and he's like waving at me, like, "What's going on?" And then I just pulled my chute at 10,000 feet and just got down to the ground, and I was really dizzy. And he goes, "Hey, bro, what was going on?" And I knew what was going on, because the same thing happened prior when I fell off that bike. So I looked at my hand too, and I saw these purple spots. That was a sign of low platelets. Platelets are anticoagulants that kind of clot our blood. And I just saw that, and I thought, I know what's going on.
It's back.
It's back. And so I rang up my mum and dad, and I said, I know what's happening. Come out for a skydive, and we'll go for a jump together so I can film you all and have a family. But I was more accepting this time. I understood.
Were you so at peace with it?
I was, yeah. I really was. I've found what I needed in my heart.
All right.
And I made the choice that no matter how hard this would get, I'd continue on with what I had.
But you knew what was you'd been there before, and you knew how hard it was, and you had to do it all over again.
Yeah, but this was going to be way physically harder. But mentally, I've got the tools in the toolbox now.
Right.
I could handle that. Yeah, I could handle that. And I had my mum and dad, and I had the people in my corner, and I trusted them, and I was open to talk to them. And so I was mentally prepared, but physically what I was about to go through was going to be something else. Yeah.
And it was? Didn't disappoint?
It didn't disappoint, mate. It was a little bit harder than the 800-metre race, mate.
Wow. Well, I suppose that's the thing. Like, whatever distance you're running, you're putting yourself in pain, but the pain stops as soon as you stop. So you can decide to end that pain.
That's your choice.
Yeah, the sort of pain that you're going through with these cancer treatments, there's no escaping it.
Yeah, no escaping. You just got to get the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why was why was it so much worse the second time round?
So this time I'd had to have what I mentioned before, an allogenic stem cell transplant. So basically what that means, I've had to have these hemopoietic stem cells. These hemopoietic stem cells live in our bone marrow, and they basically the factory cell of our immune system. So they were going to create a whole new immune system for me. Yeah. So I'd have to get these from a young girl in Germany. I didn't know she was a girl at the time. But they were coming from Germany, so it was a mismatch. It wasn't a complete match. So there was this risk for graft versus host disease. So I was going to get graft versus host disease from it. So what the protocol looked like was 2 months of chemotherapy, and then I'd have to have a break in between of another 2 months to get myself right before the treatment, before a transplant. Now, the treatment before a transplant is absolutely horrendous. They kill your whole immune system, basically like Roundup times 10. Just spray it so it doesn't grow back. They need these other cells to come in so they can grow a whole new garden, whole new immune system.
Right.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Cool. And so I had that 2 months of chemo, and after the second round of the chemotherapy, I got neutropenic sepsis, and I got put into life support. And I had this big tube down my throat, and the doctor said to my mum and dad, there's probably a good chance you won't wake up from this. And God willing, I did after 10 days.
God, that must have been hell for your parents.
It was, yeah. Yeah, it absolutely was. But there's a silver lining. I'll tell you this story. My sister tells it better than I. But apparently when they were putting me in a coma, everyone was in there, and Mum's crying, Rachel's crying, and Dad walks in, and he's like, oh, yeah, see you later, son. Bends over. He's got that builder's crack coming out. Lets out this massive fart, mate. And you got 5 specialist doctors in there like, oh, yeah, he's about to say goodbye to his boy.
Oh, is that what he was doing? So, like saying, because he literally thought it was going to be the last time he'd see you alive.
Yeah, especially for my dad. Yeah. But I must mention earlier, when I had got cancer that first time, that's when I really got to know my dad, yeah. Mm-hmm. When I first got to see him cry. Yeah. And we understood one another. We connected on a different level. So, he put his hand on my shoulder, said goodbye, did that. We laugh about it now, mate. We can laugh about it.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah, because the doctor said, he may not wake up. And, I did. So as I said before, you got 2 months off that last round of chemo. I only had 2 weeks because the person who could donate the stem cells, they only had 2 weeks to do it in this period because she was going away on holiday.
Right.
Yeah. So I got out of this coma, mate. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. I had to write on this little whiteboard to, I was skinny. I was like a little alien. What
do you weigh now and what were you weighing then?
It's about 52 kg when I got out of there. I weigh about 61 to 63 now, so 62, around there. Yeah. So I was skinny, weak, yeah. And I had to have this transplant, so I had that high-dose full-body radiation. I had this high-dose chemotherapy to inoculate my immune system, wait for the transplant to come, feed into my bone marrow, start regenerating this new immune system. And for that month I was in there, just like in this semi-comatose state. As I said before, there's small little special moments that happen and sustain you through it, and I just looked outside to Hagley Park, a place that was quite special to me, and I used to see the boys running past, and I just visualised myself running with them. Yeah. Yeah. And then my mum would come in and give me this sparkling water, with the carbon dioxide bubbles in, and I couldn't swallow because I had graft versus host disease in my stomach, and they'd just pop in my mouth, mate, pop, pop, pop. It would just give me this joyous smile, and it's just little things that sustain me for the day that I just really hung on to. Right. I was in a hospital room, my mum was here, and I had these sparkling bubbles. So it's just small things that I held on to. Yeah.
So what did you do? You just like sort of swish it around in your mouth and then spit it out?
Yeah, just held it there and just felt it go pop, 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 and just gave me a wee smile, spat it back out, and then chose to wake up for another day.
Right. And when did you realise you were out of the woods? Was there a moment where you're like, okay, I'm good?
Yeah, so it normally takes 100 days, a 100-day period to kind of see if the transplant's accepting your body. And I was having a whole heap of complications. So basically I spent a year in Christchurch back and forth going in and out of hospital with many, many complications. You know, I had heart issues and body issues. But finally, they got the level of immunosuppressants and steroids to kind of balance everything out, and I got in the clear of it. You know, I was good to go home after that year in hospital. So it was basically, let's see how you go. Let's see what happens with this graft versus host disease, and hopefully it doesn't flare up, and I'd slowly taper down the medication, because I couldn't be on high steroids and high immunosuppressants all the time, because that would cause more damage going along in the future, especially being so young. So I moved to Nelson, just recovered there, tried to recover. And then I got this email. So I got a bit of a part-time job at Skydive Motueka, just driving the van now and then for the boys. And I got this email, and from the receptionist at Skydive Motueka, and this email said, hey, do you know a guy who's recently had a transplant? He's apparently a skydiver, because I got to write a thank you letter to my donor, but the names get crossed out. So I wrote this thank you letter, and she's emailed me back, and she knew I was a skydiver, so she emailed all the drop zones in the South Island. And it turned out that she was my donor. So I got her email address, we started emailing back and forth, and I thought, far out, I've got to go meet this girl, I've got to go say thank you. Yeah, and this is not allowed. This wasn't allowed.
Why is it not allowed?
Because a lot of people in the past have taken advantage of the situation.
How do you mean?
No, good question. So some people have had the transplant, they said, well, you owe me now.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Correct,
right,
yeah,
right.
You owe me. And there's a lot of misencounters that have occurred from it, so that's why they kind of keep it separate. Yeah, so I told Ellie, the transplant lady, and she said, oh, we'll keep it on the D-Lo. I said, yeah, I know her. Her name was... But this is another funny thing. I just spontaneously called her Hannah when I got this first letter from her, because we were writing, but we didn't know the names. And I just called her Hannah. And her name was Hannah, mate. Hannah. Her name was Hannah Boye. Yeah.
Wow.
That was just a name that I gave her. Yeah. So it was special. So I thought, I've got to go see this girl and say thank you.
And you're still friends? Or you just want to see her once just for that thank you moment?
I went over there. No, her younger sister's been out and stayed with us for 2 months, lived with us. I've been over there, met her family. We're really good friends.
Yeah.
Really good friends. And I went over to Germany, went to Berlin, stayed there, and I met her, and I was just in awe of her. You know, no words could justify how I felt. No words could do it. And I broke down in her arms and just said thank you multiple times. But it was a harsh winter then. It was the end of the year of 2014, and I ended up getting put in Berlin hospital. I got pneumonia. I was coughing up blood. You know, I wasn't strong enough to go into such a harsh winter. Got flown back to New Zealand, came back here, and this graft versus host disease we were talking about, you know, it started to flare up, and my body was starting to glue itself together, and I got, you know, I was deteriorating. My body was deteriorating. Basically, my body was starting to kill its own self. It was starting to eat itself. I was getting glued up. My fascia, my ligaments, and my collagen were gluing itself together. You can see my face now. You know, it's all pigmented and screwed around. My eyes were getting dry and bloodshot, and this is when the saliva wasn't getting produced properly. So, me being me again, I decided to do this walk to St. Angela's Hut, to the Blue Lake. I wanted to go to the Blue Lake, and I did this walk. This was going to be my New Year's resolution, you know, start a fresh year, but my body was slowly deteriorating, but the medication was holding okay. Met my donor, got back. So I did this walk, and my body just started cramping up on the first hill, cramping up and locking up. I didn't know why. Well, I did know why, because of the disease, but I didn't want it. I fell on the top of the hill, just locked up like a dead sheep, mate. You know how dead sheep look? Silly as in a tussock. Yeah, just near St. Angela's Hut. And this guy, Jeremy, from Switzerland, he picked me up, took me down the hill, and I was in hysterics again. And from then on in, my body just deteriorated. My face flared up red, bright red. I got sent to Greymouth Hospital. They thought I had shingles, and I said, no, it's not. Send me to Christchurch. And I got this pain called trigeminal neuralgia. And trigeminal neuralgia is described as the worst pain known to man. It's also called the suicide disease, because about 20% of people who get this commit suicide. Just
to escape the pain.
Mate. To describe the pain, it's like a cheese grater behind your eye, or someone's burning your face while they're stabbing your side of your face. It was horrendous. I was on every pain medication you could think of, and I was screaming down that bone marrow unit, just screaming my head off. Yeah. Yeah.
But that pain, does it like come in bursts, or is it just there continuously?
No. It was there in bursts. It was flaring, like it was hot, like burning. But then you'd have these severe bursts of pain. And it would just grab me and light me up.
What did they have you on? Obviously not enough of whatever they were giving you.
Yeah, I was on morphine, fentanyl, ketamine, gabapentin. Yeah, and then finally I got sent up to the intensive care unit. I got given lignocaine infusions, which is an anaesthetic. They did it IV, and it numbed the nerve, down the trigeminal nerve on the left side of my face, and I was pain-free. Yeah, but it's still numb. I can still feel it where I'm pointing now. It's still numb now.
How's your vision? Is your vision all right?
I've had both my cataracts done, so it's okay, but not the best. Yeah. So I had that, and then this GVHD was out of control, mate. The body was eating itself together. It was, and the treatment, the immunosuppressants and the steroids weren't doing the job. So they had to send me to Melbourne to get some treatment. Yeah.
Wow. Just how can you have faith? How can you believe like there's a God when you've had such a rough fucking hand?
Yeah, that's a good question. But the thing is, there's been so much worse stuff happen to me, and I thought, why them? Why not me? So I made that decision that I'd carry the burden on my back no matter how hard it got. That was the decision I made. Yeah. Yeah, if them, why not me? Why not me? Maybe I'm taking the pain away from somebody else. Maybe if I get through what I get through, maybe my story could help someone else that's going through something. Because I know everyone out there is going through something. It doesn't have to be so significant as me, but I know a story can help someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've had people come into my ward and have a chat and say, hey, I've been here and I've got better. I've been to many, many places, thinking about taking my life and things being taken away from me. But I've managed to hold on to that self-belief within myself that things would get better. Yeah. And they really have. Yeah. We're not there yet.
We haven't even got on to the heart attacks yet.
Yeah, that's coming up. Jeez, mate. Taking me on a ride, Dom.
Someone's got it in for you. Unbelievable. We'll get to the heart. But your health now, it's good?
It's so good compared to where I thought it would be.
Yeah.
It's incredibly good. Yeah, I can't even fathom that I'm in this position, and I'm just so grateful to be alive and doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
And what are the chances of the leukemia coming back or any of that coming back?
I haven't asked for the statistics. Yeah, and personally, I don't think it's going to come back. Yeah. I think in my mind, I'm stable, I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm strong. That's how I see myself.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, and I hold on to that. Yeah.
Right. So the heart complications. Yep. Did this come as a result of the leukemia or anything, or completely random?
No, this was basically a result of the graft-versus-host disease.
Okay, yeah.
So we got sent over to Melbourne to get treatment. I'm away from my family and friends, but my brother's with me at the time. And God bless my brother. He's an amazing boy. He's 7 years younger than I, and he took it on his back to fly over with me, get myself sorted, cook my dinners, do everything like that, and set himself up in Melbourne just to help me out, mate. Incredible young man.
So 7 years younger. How old was he at the time? Like late teens, early 20s?
Yeah, he would have been about 18.
Yeah, 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so he went for a heck of a lot, but amazing young man for what he did. He took that burden on, put his hand up, and he was responsible for me when I was responsible for him back in the day. But yeah, he took me over there, and I started getting this treatment. It's called extracorporeal photopheresis. So it's basically down-regulating these T lymphocytes in my body. These T lymphocytes were sending signals to other cells to attack my body, creating this graft-versus-host disease effect. So hopefully this treatment would just down-regulate these pro-inflammatory cytokines and things like that. And it started to work. It was great. My body was freeing up a bit, but these cramps that I talked about, my body would just lock up. I got locked up down at the corner of Burke Street, and I'm in pain, mate. I'm on the ground again. My brother had to come and pick me up, put me on his shoulder, carry me home. The body was slowly getting better with this treatment. I was getting it 3 times a week. I was living in Melbourne for 6 months, but then I was away from family. I was away from friends, and I got that negative thought, am I ever going to get better? This is 7 years now since I got first diagnosed.
Oh, it's a journey.
It's a journey, mate, and when is it going to get better? When is it going to get better? But just carry on. And, every day I thought about jumping in front of a tram or doing something silly like that. I thought about it, but it was that conscious choice of not doing it. Just carry on, keep calm and carry on.
Why did you think like that? Just because it was like you just had enough, or you were exhausted, or...
Yeah, I was just utterly exhausted. I couldn't produce tears. I'd go walk down and it was just like barbed wire in my eyes. And I had this constant pain. My body would just spontaneously lock up, my arms and feet. And everything would just lock up. It was a nightmare. It really was. but I held on to hope that I would get better. I did hold on to that hope. Treatment started to work, and I was getting a little bit better, but that graft-versus-host disease, it was attacking the endothelial cells in my skin, but also inside my arteries. So I went to this Wim Hof retreat. Because I was trying out the Wim Hof method. And I was starting to feel a bit good inside myself.
Yeah.
I was having these cold showers and I was doing the slow breathing.
Yeah, for anyone that's not familiar with Wim Hof, which is probably not many people, the Dutch guy. That says a cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, he's a man, absolute.
So how did you get on the Wim Hof buzz? Just like an audio book, or you read a book, or?
No, a friend, Matt Walker, he sent me the link of this Vice documentary of Wim Hof saying he could help his immune system, decrease inflammation in the body, do all these miraculous things. So I thought, I'm desperate. I need to just try anything. And I'm willing to try anything to get myself better.
Yeah.
The doctors were doing a wonderful job of getting me better. Credit to them, and the nurses, amazing people. But I needed to take responsibility for myself and try and help myself a bit, push myself along. And I changed my diet. I was doing a whole heap of things, and I thought I'll try this method. Yeah, and I had my first cold shower, and I felt a little bit good,
It's invigorating.
It is. It's amazing, We increased dopamine levels by 250% by getting into a cold shower. I did feel a little bit good, so just give me a bit of purpose for the day. Have my cold shower, feel good. Yeah, I'm in a shit situation. Go have another cold shower. So it gave me that outlet. And then I went to a retreat because Wim Hof was doing this retreat. So I thought, I'm going to go.
So he was actually there?
He was there. And I got to meet him in Federation Square. And he said, come and do the retreat, man. He's full of energy. I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing. I want what he has. I just want it. So I signed up for his retreat. And the first day, I didn't even get to attend. I woke up and had a massive heart attack. This is before everyone got to meet each other. Massive heart attack because this graft-versus-host disease was attacking my arteries. So it was clamping down on that left main artery. Got sent to Geelong Hospital, had another 2 heart attacks. Got sent to Peter McCullum Cancer Centre where I was getting treated, had another one there. And finally got sent to the Royal Melbourne Cardiac Unit. I was in there for 24 days where I had another 12 heart attacks.
How did you not die?
Yeah.
Is it your fitness that got you through?
I'd say I had a great fitness on the, great foundation.
Yeah.
But a heart attack's not cardiac arrest. We've got to remember that too.
What's the difference?
So basically that's when cardiac arrest is basically when blood flow stops to the heart. I was just getting restriction of blood flow to the heart. So that's basically what a heart attack was. Okay. And I get this extreme pain. It's just, you couldn't move. And you could see the ECGs just flip upside down, and they didn't know what to do with me because of my skin and all my collagen and all those ligaments are glued together. They didn't know whether to give me a heart bypass or just stent the left main. Yeah, so they didn't know how to go about me. I was pretty special. So I wrote the doctor a letter. I wrote him a letter, and I said, I don't care what you do. If I die, that's fine. Just make a decision and learn from me as a patient. I wrote him a letter. Next day, heart attack. He went in the cath lab, stented my left main artery, and I was out 2 days later. Yeah, but then this GVHD flared up, mate, and I become a mess. I was an absolute mess. And I remember my friend Matt Walker coming into my room in Royal Melbourne Cardiac Unit, and he had all these bubbles going on, and I was just in the corner just crying my head off, mate, just crying like, when will it end? When will it end? But it was just holding on to that faith that it would. Just holding on, and I was just crying, mate. Yeah.
Just sheer exhaustion.
Yeah. I didn't know if I had much more left, but I had my mother's love, and I had hope. I'd found God and found a purpose, and I was responsible, so I had to keep carrying on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got more treatment, and then I finally got to go in my first ice bath. Now, a lot of people will be questioning this. I've just had a stent in my left main artery, and I was going in an ice bath. I was severely depressed, mate.
A cardiologist probably wouldn't advise it, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, he didn't advise it.
But, so that's your first ice bath. So you go from you didn't even do the Wim Hof workshop because I
didn't get to partake in that.
Okay.
I went there, everyone said hello to each other, we had dinner, and I went to bed, and I woke up in the morning, and that's when I got taken away.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah. So you go from having cold showers to the ice bath. How did you learn about the breath work and stuff like that? Just on this online course, the 10-week course. Yeah. I was doing that. But then someone recorded a podcast of the retreat, and they sent it to me because they were wondering how I was. And there was this guy, Dave O'Brien, talking.
he had this establishment called Fifth Element Wellness. And he was talking about gut health and supplements and exercise, all this wonderful stuff. And I thought, I've got to go check this out. And I walked into this room and I saw this man called Mark Clure. Wonderful man. He's become a great friend. And he's just like this, basically I describe him as a pirate who found his treasure. He was just full of life. He had this big beard. He was tough, tattoos down his arm. He's like, Joshy, mate, how are you? Picked me up and I'm like, who the heck are you? We've been wondering how you are. So he invited me to come and do this ice bath. And, you know, I was scared. I was fucking shitting myself, mate. But as I said, I was desperate and I wanted help.
Shitting yourself because you thought you might have had a heart attack in there?
Yeah,
or?
I did. Yeah, I did. I didn't know what would happen.
Yeah.
But I knew that this exposing yourself to cold, science had validated what it could do for your immune system, your cardiological system, and your neurological system, especially for depression.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I was so scared. And this was a big change for me because I really wouldn't talk to anyone beforehand or anything like that. And I was so disconnected from myself in a way. And I got on the ice and I just breathed through it, closed my eyes. The boys were like, breathe, Joshy. And I'd overcome something that I didn't think I could. And I got out, mate.
After how long?
I was in there for 5 minutes. It was about 2 degrees. And I got out and I felt absolutely incredible. Like, amazing. Yeah. And I felt this connection within myself again. And I started to pick my head out. And it's hard to describe the feeling. I finally felt like I had myself again. I had that. Running was like a moving meditation for me. It was my outlet. It was somewhere. But now I could physically overcome something that I didn't think I could. And I felt it inside myself. And I was just blown away, mate. And it became my daily practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you teach it now?
Yeah, I teach it now. Yeah, at O Studio here in Christchurch and around at home in Greymouth. Yep, and it's just been an absolute privilege to share something that's had a profound effect on me, especially with my mental state of things.
Yeah. So, okay. So for anyone that is curious about it or intrigued, like how would you start? How do you start?
You can look up the Wim Hof method.
Yeah.
Get his 10-week course. But basically, the method is just deep diaphragmatic breathing from the diaphragm, hyperventilating ourselves, and just doing slow breath holds. And then we just expose ourselves to a cold shower, adapt ourselves to cold, and then slowly we get into an ice bath. And it's just learning to be comfortable in that uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
So combining the breath with the ice, we can control our breathing. And that's, this is what I call full mindfulness. When we're in there, we've only got to focus on ourselves and where we are right now. Just breathing slowly, getting it all under control and just learning to be comfortable in that uncomfortable situation. And that's what happened for me, mate. That's what really happened for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But there's always a silver lining. So once I had that ice bath, I started to feel a bit better, started to communicate with people. And my story is just another story of so many other stories. It really is. That there's always, the light at the end of the tunnel. So after 8 years of getting that treatment, I was on a plane back to Melbourne getting treatment, and I managed to sit next to this young girl, and her name was Sybil, and I said hello to her. I wouldn't talk to anyone on a plane before; I'd shy away. And I just said hello. How are you?
Really? Why would you shy away? Just a loner, or?
No, well, you look at my face, and I was embarrassed about who I was and what I was doing. I didn't really want to share too much about my treatment and stuff. I really didn't. Prior to that,
I'm looking at your face in front of me now, and there's definite pigmentation stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it looks. I've seen you on TV interviews and stuff in the past. It's definitely looking a lot better now than what it has in the past.
So much better than what it was. Yeah, for sure. But at that time, when I was getting treatment, it was a lot worse.
Right.
Yeah, I was in a lot worse condition, and you still didn't know.
You looked ill.
Yeah, I looked really ill. Okay. Bloodshot eyes all the time.
Yeah.
And I sat next to her, said hello. She said hello back, and she's gorgeous, mate. She's absolutely gorgeous. And I said, where are you from? She said, from Switzerland. I said, what have you been doing? She's been backpacking around New Zealand, had a great time. Now she's going over to Australia. And I said, oh, cool. And then I asked, what do you do for a job? And she said, I'm an oncology nurse, a cancer specialised nurse.
What are the chances?
What are the chances, mate? So I don't recommend this for a pickup line. But I said, I actually going over to Melbourne to get this special treatment. It's called ECP. And she goes, I've never heard of it. So I said to her, do you want to come and check it out?
You're on a backpacking holiday around Australia.
Yeah, mate. And I'm like, what was she thinking? So here I am. Didn't think she'd turn up the next day. I told her my hotel, meet me at the front at 10 o'clock. And to this day, it's the first time my treatment got delayed. Normally it was at 10 o'clock. It got delayed to 1 p.m. So we, unfortunately for her,
hours.
yeah, we got taken. We had to spend that morning together, and we had a lot in common. We really did. And she was just a wonderful person.
Do you think she, and this may have even been a discussion that you've had since then, like, was she legit interested in the treatment, or did she just like you?
No, I think she was more legit interested in the treatment.
Oh, so that 3-hour delay may have been a blessing because it was a chance for you to charm her.
You charm her a bit, yeah. I didn't really know what to say because I've just talked about my last 8 years. I mean, there wasn't much to say, but she was really intrigued, and she was just a genuinely nice person. But the beautiful thing about her is she didn't see my physical self. Yeah, she saw inside me and who I was, yeah.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, man. She, you talk about health, it's those fundamental key people like her who just saw me for me, yeah. A lot of people shied away from me before, Dom. A lot of people shied away from me, and that's why I didn't want to talk to people before, because I knew how scared they were when they looked at me, and I thought I was a monster, how I looked, but she saw right into me, man. Sorry.
No, apology not accepted.
And she saw me, and we spent the week together, and at the end of the week, mate, we had a nice moment. Had a kiss.
Jeez, you've got so much gratitude, don't you? I mean, these are tears of gratitude. Yeah, nothing more.
It's just the people in your life that sustain you, mate. I had my mum, and then I had Sibs. I met her, and she decided to fly over to New Zealand to come and see me when I flew back. And this is how special she is, yeah. I was living at home with my mum and dad. I had no job. I was getting treatment for GVHD, and I had no income, nothing. And she come over and hung out with me for 2 weeks, and that was it. Set in stone. Now we're married, mate, and we've got a kid on the way. We've got a kid on the way, mate.
It's so good.
And that's the true essence of the story, I'm not 100% to what I was when I was that runner, but I've got so much more than what I had.
And your appreciation for life, eh?
And the people around me, mate. Those wonderful people, the wind behind my back, they were the ones pushing me along, and I finally got my gold, Sybil. And, I froze my sperm 11 years ago, and the doctor said, there's a good chance your sperm won't work, but we'll give it a go. And it's the first egg got fertilised, and it was an absolute miracle, mate, because I know how many people struggle having IVF babies. Yeah. I really do. And it was the easiest medical procedure I've ever been a part of.
Well, you deserved it. Myself and my ex, JJ, we after I had that tumour taken out that I told you about, we were on the IVF treadmill for a number of years. I think we ended up having like 7 failed rounds or something before we gave up. But I mean, you deserve that lucky shot.
Sorry, man.
Man, you've had no. I don't accept your apology at all, man. The stuff that you've been through, like you deserve some good luck and some good news.
And that was it.
Yeah,
I was just waiting and holding on to that. Something would change. Yeah. So Sybil's over here. She's got 4 weeks to go till she gives birth. And
amazing.
I'll be a dad, and I've got this wonderful woman by my side, and I've got something to really look forward to every day. I mean. Yeah.
Isn't it funny how everything happens for a reason?
Everything happens for a reason if you hold on to faith.
Yeah. What are the chances of you, being seated next to her on a fucking plane ride?
Oh, the chances are surreal. I mean, there's too much luck in my life to say it's luck. I'm very blessed, Dom. I really am. And to be here today to have a chat with you, mate, in a park across the road from where everything started falling out of control. It's an absolute privilege, mate. It really is to be able to share my story with you. And I just really hope that what I've been through and what I've got out of it is so much more than what I ever could have fathomed.
Yeah.
Maybe it could help someone in such a dark situation, because I know what it's like to be an athlete. I know what it's like when you think everything's been taken away. Yeah, I coach kids now, and it's just wonderful that I can still give back in a way. I can't run like I used to, no way. I can only run for about 10 minutes. But seeing these kids develop and setting some good foundations in their life, that's me giving back, and that's me being a part of running again. And it's so fulfilling. Yeah.
But how can you say you've had so much luck? Like, 'cause anyone that's listening to the story will be, if anything, you've been unlucky.
Yeah, for sure. But
You're just a glass half full guy now.
Yeah, I think life is about suffering. It really is. There's so much hard stuff out there, and I think we're accustomed in life to think it's all good and glossy, and I thought that beforehand before I was 23. Going into that hospital room, I saw young kids, 2 years old, getting chemo. I saw young boys, they didn't wake up the next day. I saw dads with young kids passing away. I went to Nepal and saw these kids with nothing. I've seen people suffer. If you want to see something, go into the bone marrow unit. You'll see real suffering. And everyone's going through something. Everyone is, and it's my responsibility just to go through my suffering and hold on to hope and faith that something good would come, and it did.
Yeah.
And it did. And that's what I just share to other people. Just hold on to those small, perfect moments. Hold on to that love, something special in your life, knowing that things will change, for the better, because I know they will. Yeah.
I think you're going to be a great dad too. You'll definitely be, more open and more willing to display love than what your own dad was, I guess.
Yeah, but he showed love in a different way, Dom.
Yeah.
To say I'll be a good dad, my dad was a great dad.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have the tools that I had now.
Yeah, of course.
And he was a great dad in his own way, because he was trying to provide money for us to provide opportunities that he never had.
Yeah.
And I respect him for that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Geez, you're one of life's great people.
Thank you,
really
Dom.
are, man. And your book, The Wind at My Back, how can people find that? How can they buy it if people want to hear more of your story?
You can go to www.joshkomen.com. There's a link there to buy it. I think it sells at Whitcoulls and Paper Plus. You can order it through there.
Yeah.
But that's the link to the book. But
Well, thanks for being so open with your story. And
I have to be. Honesty's key in this life, and there's too much mistruths going on, and I'm honest as I can be to people, and that's what happened. I'm lucky for my suffering. I really am. I'm really blessed about it, because it's made me a better person. It really has. Yeah.
Man, I'm just so thankful that when you were standing on that balcony that day, that there was that breath of wind.
Breath of wind. Yeah, perfect analogy. Breath of wind. She took me around and I saw my mum, and just that love hit me.
Yeah. Was she right there, was she?
Yeah, because she was looking after me.
Yeah.
So she went to the supermarket that day. So she was staying at Ranui House. Ranui House is an amazing facility they have in Christchurch for long-term patients where family members can stay and support them. So she was staying there, and those times I'd have that month of treatment and then come out for a week. So in that week, she was looking after me. She went out to the supermarket. And I thought, that's when I made that kind of incorrect decision.
I mean, had you done it, and like no one could be mad at you. No one could, you'd be perfectly entitled to, but shit.
No.
Yeah, no words.
No. I mean, it's hard to think what I was thinking then, and to be honest, I wasn't thinking. I was just in complete despair.
Yeah.
Life was meaningless. I felt powerless. I felt hopeless. I had no purpose, and I connected myself to death. That's just what I connected myself with.
Well, let's hope the second half of your life is better than what the first has been.
Oh, every day's been amazing since I've met Sibs. It really has. And those days of hardship too have taught me a lot, Dom.
Yeah.
They really have taught me a lot. And we can go through so much. We've all got it within ourselves to overcome the obstacles that present themselves. We all have it there. And someone wants to help someone. And that's the strength right there, reaching out for help. We spoke about it earlier in the conversation. I was too young, dumb, and full of cum to do it. Silly. It was absolute silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all need a bit of help. We all need a bit of wind behind our back. And I'm just so thankful for every person that's come into my life. Doctors, my Greymouth community, the running community that I had prior to that. Everyone's been absolutely amazing, and I love them and appreciate them all. And I just love what you're doing, Dom. You've got some great, great people on this podcast, and you talk about some heavy-hitting stuff and really get that true, authentic person out, and they get to speak some true meaning in their life, and I think you're doing a wonderful job, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it all depends on the willingness of the person to share their story and be open and raw and vulnerable, and you've definitely been all those things today, man, and I'm so appreciative that you shared your story with me.
No, thank you very much. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
No, seriously, cheers.
Josh Komen, love you, man.
Love you too, mate. Thank you, Dom.